All right. I'm good to go. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here tonight. I'm going to go fast and furious, but just a little bit more about me. As a career coach, I spend most of my time helping individuals try to figure out what to do with their lives. Some want to make switches, some want to go quicker, higher, faster. Now, I especially work with youth. And here in Singapore, the government defines youth as 35 and below. I'm a little broader. I kind of say I work with the under 40 crowds, which means I spend most of my time at university campuses all around Singapore, Hong Kong, and abroad, speaking with undergraduates, postgraduates, and even PhDs. But the most important thing you need to know about me is, although you may think you know where I'm from, I'm not American, okay? Yeah? I'm Canadian. Big, big difference, yeah? So, Canadians, we like to think we're the more polite, more friendly version of the North American. And although I love my American friends, our government doesn't shut down, so we don't like to get lumped in with the rest of that crowd, yeah? So tonight I want to speak to you about some research I'm about to undertake with respect to how we develop leaders here in Asia, specifically fresh undergraduates and MBAs straight out of school, you know? Now, modern conventional wisdom will tell you that you need some sort of leadership development program. Sometimes these are known as management associate or management trainee programs, and typically these programs have some sort of rotational component where we spin you around different functions so you get to learn the business. And sometimes we'll even spin you around the region, maybe even around the world. On paper, obviously, these programs are extremely attractive and super sexy, but are they really doing the job? Well, with retention rates going this way and the cost of these programs going the opposite way, my hypothesis is that these programs aren't working at all. And let me give you 3 common scenarios. First, if you're a global multinational, you've probably taken your mature program from maybe the US or Europe and try to Asiafy it, and that's totally not working. Or maybe you decide to build the program from scratch. But with the development abilities of HR and talent development in Asia here pretty low, you probably had no idea what you're doing. Or maybe you have a program, but frankly speaking, it's probably more for marketing than anything else, because honestly, if you don't have one of these programs these days, who's going to join you, right? Attracting talent is a very, very difficult thing. And all of you current students will know what I'm talking about, yeah? So why are these programs not working? Well, let me give you 3 potential ideas. The first, starting with the attitude of high potentials today. Now, Asian leadership development programs are quite young, so those of you who've been through are most likely from Generation Y. And if you've worked with a Gen Y or you're in that generation, then you already know that Ys are built pretty differently than the rest, yeah? One tricky thing is in this concept of loyalty. Now, Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, mentions in his new book, The Alliance, that no young person thinks of their employer as part of a family anymore, and no one actually wants that type of relationship, right? Obviously, you know, the family they have might be already a big enough pain as it is, right? So, although Gen Ys are grateful, and they aren't as entitled as we portray them to be, this sense of duty that they will stick it through with their current employer who might have given them a big break or spent hundreds of thousands of dollars training them doesn't exist. And Goldman Sachs is one that's learned it the hard way. In 2012, Goldman did the controversial move to scrap its famous 2-year analyst program for fresh undergraduates because it was just tired of being the training ground for its competitors. Yeah? Now, the second reason might have to do with Asia itself. All right? Asia is a very diverse and complex region. I mean, you all know about that. For me, I'm still trying to figure out when someone should be calling me an Angmo versus a Laowai versus a Guaylo, right? Capabilities are extremely wide here. And so when a hypo gets thrown into the region and asked to step up, well, you all know, it takes more than one person to affect change. And what works in one country doesn't necessarily mean it'll work in another. So when the hypo goes in there with little support, they totally fall flat on their face, and everybody's frustrated, all stakeholders, including themselves. But the third and probably biggest reason that I think these programs aren't working may have to do with you, the managers. Now, you've all heard the saying, people don't leave bad companies, they leave bad managers, yeah? And I don't place all the blame on you. I mean, managing people is difficult, and Gen Ys, and with all their lofty expectations, and especially here in Asia, with such a heavy KPI-driven, culture, yeah? But how many of you have actually thought that your people management skills could use some improvement? How many of you have asked for help or even received help before? Companies seem to think today that once you reach a certain level, you will just know what to do. Or maybe we'll send you off to one course, and then all of a sudden the light bulb will just turn on, yeah? But in reality, we all know that this skill is probably one of the most difficult to master, and frankly speaking, in Asia, managers suck, yeah? So your hypos probably already have one foot out the door. So where are we in the research? Well, my partner and I are just finally up the design of the survey, and we plan to take a different approach than companies like maybe Mercer or Aon Hewitt who study these things. Instead of coming top down and trying to get companies to aggregate this data for us, we want to go bottom up. We want to speak to the actual individuals who've been through these programs to get the real dirt, the real insights here. So starting this fall, we hope to collect somewhere between 500 to maybe 1,000 data points of individuals who've been through these programs, starting here in Singapore, and then go from there. So if you're keen to participate or you have any feedback, I'd love to talk to you about it. But to end, just so I don't leave you empty-handed, here's some food for thought. Obviously, we don't yet have the data, but here are 3 potential ideas on how we can make things a bit better. Yeah? The first, think now. Don't think too far ahead. I mean, the world is changing at such a rapid pace. So if you're trying to come up with a 5-year plan for your future leaders, forget about it. Instead, focus on trying to get these people short-term projects that can make an immediate impact. Then your hypos will get a sense of achievement, and the rest of the company will know these guys are the real deal. The second, be audacious. Companies need to work with schools to change the message. They need to tell people like MBAs it's okay to not want to be a Fortune 500 executive. Going off the beaten path needs to be something more celebrated, something I've tried to do by starting the Audacity movement a couple years ago. That way, when candidates do apply, companies will know they are committed and they're in it for the long haul. And finally, KPIs. I mean, I hate those 3 letters, but you know the adage. What gets measured gets done. Yeah? Line managers need to take some accountability for the development of their people. So as part of their performance review, a larger chunk needs to be taken into account both the retention and the output of their high potential, something that is very rare and I don't even hear much about here in Singapore or abroad. So with that, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I'd be happy to carry the conversation with you either online, here's my contacts, or at the break. Thank you so much.